Hi, Max.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me just turn you up. Okay, that should be okay. And
Hello.
Andrea, I've already let in the call too. And Max, I've made you co-host.
That is wonderful.
Great.
Hello, Pisciners. It's a Friday afternoon. We thought we'd keep the best for the end of the week. Welcome, Andrea. Wonderful that you can join us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Andrea, obviously, as in all human gatherings, we should give a couple of minutes, not too many, but maybe until 3 past. And then I suggest we start because from our experiences, these things always start a bit slow and you think you have all the time in the world. And then in the end, you can't get all the questions in. And we want to, of course, spend as much time for our students, for our pisciners to ask questions. This is a joint event for the current March pisciners as well as our students who are excited to get to know you.
That's great. So no worries.
Okay. Cool. Folks, we will try to monitor the chat also, but frankly, we do appreciate questions that come in via the microphone and ideally the camera on, or of course on site if you want to come down and join Bethan in asking a question via the microphone in Wolfsburg directly. As always, we are on the record. We are recording the session, and if it's not embarrassing or we do something crazy, we will share it with the rest of the world because I think there will be some questions and points that are interesting for most of us. So without further ado, it is 3 past. So if there are no questions or other last minute interventions, Bethan, are you there? Is everything set up? People can hear us well.
I am here. I know I'm just the weird voice in the background, but we are here, we are ready, and we are loud. So we can hear you and we're looking forward and we're excited.
Okay. Awesome. Do let us know if we're missing something coming in through the chat. But with that, hello, welcome, good afternoon. This is 42 Wolfsburg recording the first ever public appearance of our new Vice President, Andrea Morgan-Schönwetter. Give her a hand of applause, please. Really, really awesome. Andrea has been a dear friend and colleague for the 2 years that I've been with the school. She was there on the first meeting when the Markthalle was still a construction site pretty much, or even pre-construction site. It felt like the very beginning of COVID, right? It was the summer 2021. We all still felt very weird about wearing masks, and we didn't really know how to handle all of that. And so we have gone through quite some interesting times together, and we're super excited that since about 2 weeks, she joined us as our vice president next to Ralf Linde, who is of course our president and has been with us from the beginning. He's terribly sorry he can't make it today. It's a fairly serious private emergency that has come up that obviously was not possible to foresee. I'm sure you'll meet him another time, or you can meet him out of the can if you want. You can watch the 42 Wolfsburg opening where he was the moderator. So if you want to get a sense of the man behind the school that is really pulling a lot of the efforts together, do that. But today it's time for Andrea and me to have a casual, informal chat, try to learn as much as we can about her and her vision for 42, and for her to get to meet you. So the plan is to have about let's be honest, 15, 20 minutes probably, Andrea, if we want to go through the questions we thought about, and then open it up to you, to the students. So think about your questions already, take notes. I think pretty much everything is fair game. I will give you a bit of a background about Andrea, so you can see things in perspective. And I think that's the plan. Andrea, any last words before I embarrass you with some facts and truths about you?
No, I'll wait until that happens, and then we're gonna see what I'm gonna do.
Okay, awesome. So some background about Andrea. She has been the head of recruiting and employer branding at CARIAD. That's the software development arm of Volkswagen that only exists for a little longer than a year. Before that, she was 2 years at Volkswagen at a very comparable role, right? Employer branding and recruiting, especially for digital talent. So the move makes a lot of sense in that direction. Maybe she can share a bit more about that. And as mentioned, it took a little while, but now we're super happy to have her on board. And we had our first president's meeting last Tuesday. And I think we can say that we're pretty much up and running in terms of the leadership and having her on board for those meetings. Before joining Volkswagen, the Volkswagen universe, she was 18 years with Deutsche Telekom and T-Systems. T-Systems, of course, one of the partners of 42 Berlin as well, where she helped to make some introductions and made that happen. And maybe also a little bit about her private background, so she can bring her whole self, as we are not just a traditional school. We bring our whole selves to the learning experiences as well. She is the mother of 3 awesome kids, and her husband, Pascal Morgan, is a fellow at 42 Wolfsburg. So maybe slowly but surely we can recruit the whole family. And with that, I would suggest we hand it over to you, Andrea, to do a self-introduction, what you would have said to correct or complement what I started with.
Yeah, thank you, Max, for the introduction. And yes, I hope that all the 3 kids are somehow someday get connected to 42. Why not? I mean, we just discussed with my older son, Cesar. He's like always thinking about, he wants to be a software engineer. And but actually just because of the gaming part, right? He wants to develop some games, and now he's drawing a lot. And I said, yeah, okay, drawing is the one thing, but maybe you should learn how to code. So we're gonna see on that. And the middle daughter, she wants to go to the moon or to Mars or somewhere else. So maybe, I'm not sure. We're gonna see that. Yeah. I don't want to correct anything that you said. Maybe I just want to add something. I'm actually from Munich, so most of the people, now I live in Berlin, so most of the people always ask, how did you go? Why did you go to Berlin? Munich is so beautiful and everything is so nice and the mountains are close, and that's true, of course. Sometimes I'm really a little bit angry about how far I have to drive to get to the mountains. But when I was 12, I went to a sports event in Berlin, and then I already figured out I need to live in Berlin one day. So therefore, it took me a little bit longer. I went, as Max said, I started my career after university. I was first in the States and then went to university in Regensburg. And then I started in Stuttgart. So not really in Berlin. I was actually applying for all the jobs in Berlin, but there were not so many that time. And then I got an option in Stuttgart, and I always said, okay, I'm just going to go to Stuttgart for some years, and then I'm just going to go to Berlin. And then like after 10 years, I was like, why the hell am I still in Stuttgart? I always wanted to go to Berlin. And I had a team that was like spread all over Germany, so 5 different locations. And then I told my boss, I always wanted to go to Berlin. Why am I still here? And yeah, then I just moved to Berlin because it was actually anyway, and no problem. We already had mobile work that time. It's a long time ago, as you heard, but we already had that. So I was just traveling around, not anymore from Stuttgart to the other locations, but from Berlin to the other locations. So it was easy. Yeah, and maybe one more thing about my family. As you heard, Pascal is also a fellow, but we have a big family in the States. So I'm also like connected to the States a little bit, therefore. So Black American family there. And that's always very loud and very interesting. And I really love to be there. And I'm, of course, always the white person, the only white person there, because my kids, they have like all the different shades in their skin color. So it's always very, very funny and very interesting. Yeah, that's maybe about me. And I'm maybe one more thing regarding the change from Volkswagen to CARIAD. I think it was really interesting because actually I'm a automotive girl, because my grandfather and my mother, they were all working for, I'm coming from Munich, not one of the group brands, it was BMW. But anyway, so it was also automotive, and I was always like really keen on working for the car industry, because I always thought it was really exciting there. And when I changed from Telekom to Volkswagen, it was like, oh my God, now finally I'm gonna go to an automotive company in a time where it is so much change going on, because telecommunications, when I was there, had that big change, that whole transformation during that time there. And now I was like, okay, now I'm going to go to the next industry that will have a really big transformation up front. And yeah, that was really a great thing to do. And it was very, very interesting. But of course, somehow when they decided to get CARIAD out of Volkswagen, I always thought, yeah, but the IT and the tech part that is always so interesting is now moving away. So maybe I should just go over there, because there are going to be, from a recruiting perspective, of course, the interesting profiles and the need for a lot of more people. Automotive is like very easy. Like everybody, if you have engineers studying somehow around cars, they always want to go to companies like Volkswagen, Porsche, Audi, whoever. But IT and techies, to bring them in a company like CARIAD that is like in between all those brands, that was the thing that, yeah, I thought is a big challenge and makes this job really great. Yeah.
What an awesome introduction. I think now people already know you, and we can dive deeper into some of the intricacies. And I certainly want to ask you in a moment about where you see things going. Right, you mentioned the transformation, but let's start very at the last point that you made, how to hire software engineers at CARIAD and in the mobility sector a little broader, because I think students really loved what you just said, namely they're sought after, they're a hot commodity, and I think it's almost like in a real relationship, right? Both sides need to be attracted to each other. And so what is it that, in your perspective, makes are the qualities employers are looking for when they're hiring software engineers in general, and maybe more specifically, what you and your team are looking for?
Yeah, I think the most important part is, but this is probably something that not only software engineers should bring into companies, but the most important part is really having a flexible and adaptable mind, staying curious, like being somebody who really still wants to learn. Because I think what we all need to do when we know that we're in the middle of a big transformation is how can we adapt to new situations, to new responsibilities, to other processes, to digitalization, to how are we going to handle all that. And I think the most important part is always to stay curious and to be, okay, I can transform from this way to another, and being in that mode, I think is very important. And of course, the companies at the end need great developers. So you should be safe in your languages, depending on the profile, whatever it is, if it's C++ or Python or whatever it is. But and using the languages, because what I sometimes see when I get profiles or when I look at CVs and then afterwards talk with the people, then they write, okay, I have a great knowledge in C++. Okay. So what did you use it for? What did you program with it? What did you do? And did you really use it every day, or did you use it in different projects? So I think the most important part is like getting an expert in maybe 1, 2, 3, how many languages it would be, but staying an expert there and like keep on learning, using it. That's a really, really important thing, I would say. And of course, as you could see from the old developers, I'm pretty long in that area going on. So there are also languages they're not used that much anymore. So keeping that updated also means still learning, okay? Getting new languages then if needed, and get their more experience. So I think this is something that I would really always look for. But at the end, it's a lot of things come with, do you fit to the team? Do you like the team? Because at the end, a lot of things can be learned also afterwards, learning on the job, like together with colleagues and all that stuff. But do you really feel welcome? Do you feel that employer is the right employer for you? Or do you feel, oh, the people are really weird, I don't think I would go with them for a beer or a coffee or something else? So I would always find out, is the mindset, how they work, how they act with you, how they interact with you, even in interviews or wherever, events, etc. Is that something that you like, or do you think it's weird? Then it's probably not the right company to apply for. But I think most important part is really, on one hand, the overall mindset, being flexible, learning, still keep on learning, having also that mindset of, okay, I don't know everything, but I'm always open to learn more. This is the one part. Being flexible, like not having only I just want to do this. So like stay open. In German, a good friend of mine, he always says, open your head, like Kopföffner. So open your head and be open-minded for different things that are coming in. So I think this is a good thing, and like trying to be creative to find different ways. There are always different ways for a solution. So I think sometimes companies always have, like, either they have some software testing before, or they have even peer online tests where you code with them. So also there, it's not about that there is one perfect result at the end. You just have to explain why you did it that way, or why you used one way or the other. So I think being there, creative and open-minded, is very important.
Super answer, and you triggered a number of thoughts with me. As it is a fireside chat, not a pure interview, I will share a couple of observations. One is what you said about the open mind is exactly how we opened the article about 42 Berlin. The mind is like an umbrella. It works best when open. It's from Walter Gropius, and I couldn't agree more. You know, openness, open-mindedness to listen to the various perspectives, to be empathic, as you pointed out earlier with your family, right? To people who are different. And I don't know how the students feel. I'd love to hear back when we open it up. But a lot of what you described sounded to me like the training at 42 is kind of a preparation for that, both in terms of the collaboration and the feedback, but also in really speaking the language, right? Not learning the theory about coding, but being able to write code. Two aspects I wanted to mention in particular. One is that just the meeting before this one, the pedagogue leads and myself got together to look at best practices for GitHub portfolios, which I think is really what recruiters are checking out, where you do the due diligence to see if somebody is talking or somebody's actually walking the talk and writing, contributing to projects, right? And has the commits, has the evidence for real action. And students, you can expect to receive some trainings and projects around portfolio building on GitHub. And the other aspect that I think you pointed out quite nicely is that with today's technologies, you never stop learning. It would be pretty silly to think that you know how the tech works, right? Luckily, a lot of people from all over the world are collaborating to evolve the technology, and hence we have to evolve ourselves. And the aspect of 42 that once you're in, once for you PCners, once you passed the PCN and you started to work, and then you got to the end of the core curriculum, you can come back anytime for the rest of your life to do more projects and to refresh or reskill or upgrade. And we're thinking with Andrea and Ralf Linde also how to make those upskilling, reskilling possibilities available for our partners. So we've talked a bit about you. We've talked a bit about your recommendations for how to get hired. But what is your perspective on the two numbers 4 and 2 and all the meaning that comes with that? What's your vision? What gets you excited when you think about your new role? I don't want to call it a job. It's a job of honor. Andrea is volunteering to do this. So there must be something that is intriguing. Please share with us.
Yeah, it's the answer to everything. So what should I answer? No.
What's your question?
Yeah, what's your question? So I'm going to think about it again. But of course, 42 is the answer. No, I think 42 means for me that we really give everybody an option, you know, like getting people into a world where they can learn how to code. So there, I think either people are already good in something, or they figure out maybe this is something I would like to do. But when I think at my university degree, I would say it's not so easy to go to university, and the way how you study there is maybe not meant for everybody. So I would even enjoy to have a program also for business administration that is more likely the way how the 42 works, and not like normal universities work. So what I think, it's really great to have a place like the 42 where people with a passion for software development can do that and don't have all the hassles around it, and that network at the end really supports the idea that tech education gets accessible by everyone. And on the other side, of course, as I have two roles, right? I have this role and I have that job, but combining the role and the job, it's just perfect, because I know that all the companies look for all these tech talents. So making so helping to support, to find more tech talents or to develop more tech talents is of course something that I'm really looking forward for all the companies, because they are of course searching for software engineers, for architects, developers, who don't tell me all the roles, like all the software roles. And I think if we can somehow with everything, how we can support this is always good, because we need, there are so many, when you think about how many roles did we have, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, and how many people we are looking for right now. I mean, already 20 years ago, I was looking for IT and techies, right? But the number is growing so much. So I would always say everything that we can do as companies, but also as individuals, to support, to get more people in areas, in these tech areas educated is very helpful. So I think the whole network is a great thing, and I would do like a lot of things to support that and to get you also into the jobs with also our networks, not only mine, but all the people that are somehow connected to 42. I think we just need to spread the word. The word of mouth is always important for communities like ours. So yeah, I hope we can somehow support that there are more better software engineers out there that can be hired from great companies like CARIAD or Volkswagen or Porsche or Audi or whoever, or also Google and all the others. You're muted, Max, if you say something.
That has never helped and is still happening after years and years of video conferencing. Apologies. So great answer. And I think the students probably understand why we thought you'd be a great vice president for us, lobbying and representing us in the various places that you are part of. Now, I would suggest I combine the next two questions so that we're a bit better in time and can open it up to the students and the PCners in a little bit. Experience shows that reminding them that we're going to look for questions from you has proven to result in good questions, especially if those folks who usually don't take the mic to ask questions do that. All the girls and women out there, we really love to hear from you. I'm sure there's questions for Andrea that you would like to get out. All you introverts folks, where you think your English is not perfect, it doesn't matter. We're here to listen to your question, and I'm sure we'll get it. So please think about what you'd like to ask. So the two questions I want to combine are, on the one hand, you've talked a bit about the past and how far we have come. You've talked about the transformation that is upon us, that we are right in the middle of. Now, I'd like you to get out your crystal ball and share with us what you are seeing, how far out you can possibly dare to venture in your outlook. Let's really go beyond, I would say, 10 years, maybe 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. You know, it gets so far that it's more likely for us to see something that we don't expect, right? Or that others might not see, that you could imagine happen in the transformation. There is an old saying, people totally overestimate what can be done in 1 year, and they totally underestimate what can be happening in 10 years and beyond that. And if you want, the second bit of the question would be, if you see this hopefully desirable future in the further out, are there any results in how you think about your work and about software engineering and education today that we should cherish and value and be aware of and maybe address already, so that, you know, we're going in the good scenario and not in a bad scenario?
Yeah, it's really hard. I think when I look at CARIAD, Volkswagen, like the whole group, I would say I hope, and I also hope for all the mothers and fathers who have to drive their children somewhere during the time where they have to be driven somewhere, that we have a lot of autonomous driving options, mobility services in all the different ways. Like that mobility is, of course, something very personal, because I also have, as I come from Bavaria, I also have some friends, they live like in the countryside, there's nothing around, there's a farmer and there's a house beside that, so they won't have any we share concepts now. But I hope in the future we will have somehow really a mobility that helps everybody with individual needs to get from A to B or from A to B to C very easy. And then I think that all the other stuff around mobility, like all the services in between, what am I going to do in the car? If the car drives alone, what can I do then? You know, I can do everything in the car. So is that a new room for me? Is that like an area where I can spend all my time? So let's go from here to Italy, 12 hours. I don't know, but let's have something to eat. Let's have a nice dinner with the family together and have a movie and whatever. I don't really know, but hopefully it's going in that direction, that we can use this time, the traveling in between, for a lot of other things that we might not really imagine now already. What does that mean for software engineers? There are no borders. There is nothing that is like where we say, okay, you can just go in this direction, or developing for a company in a software, in a mobility service company, doesn't mean that you just develop something for the car. It's not for the car, it's the services around it. It's like there is nothing that cannot be there. So I would say we should connect a lot more. So because I think when I look back a little bit, I would say it was always very easy to see where software engineers went. They went to IT or tech companies. But now, as we can already see, they go everywhere, because also, I don't know, Hugo Boss, L'Oreal, whoever it is, they all need software engineers. You know, it's crazy. It's not anymore, okay, it's also not anymore automotive needs software engineers, everywhere. So what I think is, when we think about the future, we also have to connect all the dots. Like how will companies actually look like? How will they be connected? As we can see already, also that is also something that there was a big step in the past years at Volkswagen, because before automotive was like a close shop thing, you know, but now we're opening up and we're working together with Amazon, we're working together with other companies. So we're opening up and getting like also there a whole network of companies that work together. So I think we have to be very open-minded. So again, the topic that I said before, open-minded, flexible, and not too much focused on an industry, on a service or anything, because I think there are things that we cannot imagine right now. And if we keep things already in pictures and making borders, walls and things, no, this is not where we want to go. I think it's just there's not such a creativity coming out if we would be like very open-minded.
Awesome. It reminds me the last part you mentioned about the partnerships, that Gunnar Kilian actually has a saying. I don't know if he came up with it himself or he quoted it, that the age of digitization is the age of partnerships, because you can't do it all as any player could. And so you need others, and you need those APIs between the organizations, you need the APIs between the products. And I cannot resist to say that you need interoperability, right? You need a clear description, you need joint schemas and all of those things, stuff that I think, again, 42 is well positioned to both help educate, help others learn, but also to bring together the experts from various places in kind of a neutral environment, right? So with our fellow program for the Pisciners, we're inviting experts from industry and academia to basically have that an environment where they can meet other experts from other companies, where traditionally, you know, maybe that lovely car manufacturer from Munich would not necessarily come to Wolfsburg and just share what they're doing in a certain area. But if both sides are open, if there is open source or open standards involved, that I think leads to benefits for all sides. And hopefully we can play a little role in that as well. So that brings me to the last question that we prepared, and that is about books. We actually do like books at 42 Wolfsburg. We don't like all the books, you know, many might be a better resource in a digital form, right? You don't need to kill trees for some of the stuff that's printed these days. A lot of stuff in tech gets outdated. So we're looking for books that I guess have a long half-life, that people want to pick up and learn from about life and about software engineering. So we call it the Manual for Happy Software Engineers. And we ask our guests whether they can recommend a book or two that they've read or that they're really curious about and have on their reading lists. So Andrea, would you have something you would recommend for everybody in the 42 community?
Everybody in the 42 community needs to read those, right? You know, like all the Douglas Adams, probably you all have them. So I really love them. So you should all read them. It's so
humor
fun.
is so quirky. I think it's absolutely unique, and it gives us kind of the license to be a bit quirky and informal as well, right? We don't have to be super serious.
Yeah, that's good.
That's called 42. With that background, we can be a bit weird. That's really, really helpful, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, at the moment with 3 kids, I have like all the books on my shelf trying to read them. So I never really finish one. What I'm at the moment in, and I really, really like it a lot. I don't know, there is no English translation or no English title, I think, for was Männer nie gefragt werden. From Franzi Kühne. It's more it's all the whole role with women, what women in business are asked and what men in business are asked. It's very interesting. It's like it's amazing, because sometimes I also get like all these questions and I never really thought about it, why they always ask me that. And I never thought that men would never be asked the same weird questions, like, how do you manage like 3 kids and your job? Nobody is asking that a man. So that I really, really like. So you should read something in that area. But what I actually liked a lot, and it's not really something that I would say has something to do with software engineering or business or whatever, but The Never-Ending Story is like a really, Michael Ende, like a really great story. And I just read it again. I read something, but just with my son, of course, because for me, myself, and I don't have that much time, but we read that now. And I remembered when I was reading that when I was young, there is so much creativity in that book. And there's so much things that you can imagine, or what you could imagine how a world could look like, also if it is just a story. I really, really love that book. So maybe you could put The Never-Ending Story in that area. So not a really business book, but yeah, something else.
Yeah, believe it or not, we already have Momo from Michael Ende, which I think is
very good.
Other really, really great book by him. He's been a real, solid intellectual. Did you know that he was debating with Joseph Beuys and, in arms against nuclear, the nuclear threat, etc. Really interesting personality, Michael Ende.
Yeah.
Indeed, one of the great modern German books, I would say. I have a recommendation for you as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, another book on my shelf. Okay.
But I make it a bit easier because the book's not out in English yet. It's really good in German. I'm reading it right now. But she gave a wonderful TED Talk called Organized Love by Kübra Gümüşay. And she is very much along the lines of, how it is different, not only to be a woman, how everybody is actually different, and how we should be much more appreciative of that fact and not assume that, everybody's like us. I think that's a common mistake that happens way too often. So also to all our students, of course, I put the link to the TED Talk in the chat down there. So the moment we have been waiting for, and I would love to see if somebody has a question, please raise your hand or type in the chat, which is the second best option. Wonderful. Kioma, great to see you again, and please unmute yourself.
So it's great to have you here. I would like to ask you, as a woman, sorry. So I was thinking your career path seemed to be a very interesting one. What were the sacrifices that you had to make to build this? I know there are a lot. What are the major sacrifices that were in place to build this level of career? Or looking at family, friends, and everything, and how you were able to just balance it without, so I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking, before family, it was just time, because I was traveling a lot. As I said, I had like 5 different employees on 5 different locations in Germany, but I also worked a lot of at international locations. So I was traveling a lot, but I really enjoyed it. So actually, it was not really a sacrifice. It was more like, okay, I can do what I really like, and I'm really passionate about recruiting and employer branding. So it was always like, it was a lot of fun. I always liked to go to events and stay there, like as the last one. I was always more or less the last at the bar, but there the funny things and the connections with other people happen. So it was not really, that was not a sacrifice at the moment, I think, or like the in between. I also had a really great option. So therefore it always depends where you work. When I worked at Deutsche Telekom and I had my first child, I came back after a year and then had a leadership tandem role with another colleague of mine. So I was just working part-time, but I still had the same responsible position. So this was like really great that they offered that. So this was also no sacrifice, because I could just go to the playground and in the afternoon. Okay, sometimes I had some calls at the playground, but it was funny because my colleague, she also had a girl, so she was sitting in front of music lessons. You could hear the flute in the background, and at my place you could hear all the kids playing at the playground, and then we discussed some topics. But that was also okay. So it was not, I didn't feel like, oh my God, I just give everything for my career. Since when I changed then to Volkswagen, that was like that moment where I would say it was hard for me to like really go with 3 kids. And the third one was just 15 months old. Then I started to work full time again, and I was traveling back and forth to Wolfsburg from Berlin. And this was just possible because Pascal was there, and he said, no, you're going to do this, because this is a once in a lifetime option that you can build up a recruiting department for Volkswagen. They will not do that again because it was the first time that they had a central recruiting department. And therefore, he just supported me that way. And I think it was, I always communicated very clearly that I can only come 3 days a week to Wolfsburg and stay at home 2 days a week. I think everybody there thought she is all crazy because they didn't have that. Like 3 years ago, there were some people who worked sometimes 1 day per week at home, but I did that like from the first week on. And I think some of my colleagues thought I was crazy when COVID started and they all stayed home and worked from home. They figured out, oh, that's even nice. I also like to stay home sometimes. And some of them even told me, now I can really see why you did that. It's also good. And yeah, so I think sometimes it's the feeling that you never have all the time for everything. So you always have to think, what is now more important? And for example, normally on today, normally I would just always pick up on Fridays at 3:45. I would pick up my kids, the girls from the kindergarten, and they always wait for that. So if I don't do that, then I feel like I couldn't do it. But then the next time I do it again. So it's not so many sacrifices. It's more that I really, really like my job, that I really like to network and to get connected with other people. So, yeah.
That was a very subtle hint. Thank you for sharing all of that. And we did, as you know, Andrea very kindly and spontaneously jumped in, and she does have to leave.
No, it's fine. Pascal just took over. It's fine.
Look
No
at that. This is 2022. Thanks to Pascal, you know, in his service as 42 fellow, generating value for us and the community. That means that we can hear from Haya. Haya, great. I've seen that you care for women's rights and are active in STEM and education. Please ask your question.
Thank you so much. Yes, I am. I actually I am myself also an engineer. I just recently finished my master's degree in mechatronics engineering, and I'm in the position of job searching because I need the financial support, even if I hopefully manage to get to the school, to the 42 Wolfsburg. I still need the financial part of to support myself. So I want to ask, and I also want to thank you, Andrea, because I have a passion also in tech and in education and enabling women, especially in these fields and in STEM in general. Because during my studies, I also suffered from this stigma of you are a woman in the wrong place, whether you're doing your degree in science or engineering, or you're searching for jobs in these areas. There's always this look at you where like, why are you even here? So I want your advice. Well, two things more, so they're connected. First, how do you advise about the companies that, you know, when we apply for jobs as women, we get asked, for example, like, are you considering to start a family soon? Or are you considering, you know, like, or the ones that ask for the marital estate and these things that we kind of like, it feels a bit awkward when you try to escape the answering it, but it's there, unfortunately. And what companies should do about this if they actually really take enabling women seriously in the industry? And the second question is for us women who apply in these jobs, what should we do? How should we consider it? And what is the priority would be for, what should the priority be for us? Just apply for any company because we want the job, or just to actually target companies that support women and have that environment to enable women? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. I think what is always good, as we have all these great platforms to get in contact with women out of the companies where you like to apply, and ask them how it is. Don't just read what we write on career pages, because of course we write on career pages, we support diversity. Everybody writes that, you know, like everybody says, okay, of course we support women. But ask the women that are working in the companies, is it really like this? So get in contact, it's free. Just contact somebody out of that department and ask them. I would always use all these options, because when I applied actually for the first job, there was still just printed versions of the business review Geschäftsbericht. So it was not the business report. So it was not really that much in the internet where you could find information or platforms where you could ask these questions. At the end, I would really ignore people or questions that are like, do you have any plans to get kids or whatever? I would just say no, of course not. I just did what I did. I studied. I wanna do my career, and it doesn't make any sense to like think about this now. I'm here to get a job. So otherwise I would have not applied. So just, I think some people just really don't get it. I think all the companies do a lot of things to support women, or not all, but most of them, the ones where I worked, it is a really big issue. And build up your own network. I think the most important part is that you yourself, and sometimes we, I'm not sure, I'm that, as I said, I'm that kind of person who is always last at the bar, because I like people. So I always like discussing with people, and I like to connect. I like to connect with people, but I also like to connect other people. So I think if you have this in mind, that you are, of course you are at a business dinner, and of course then you are tired and you want to go home. But I always tell, especially women, because most of the time they go earlier than the men. I don't know why. Stay there, have fun, talk with them, what other interests they have. Because I think this is really the most important part of networking, and getting your own network together, and always think about supporting each other. We as women have to support each other the same, and we of course need great men who support us on the other side, right? But I think it is always good to build up your own women network somehow, where you can get support and discuss things that happen, or where you have issues with other women, because it's a little bit more, it always feels a little bit safer, I think. Yeah. Hope this answered your question.
Thank you very much. It does.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. I think you're a skilled moderator, but I invite Pablo to ask his question. Please, Pablo.
Thanks. I find that what Haya says, and it's along the same lines. I value education a lot. I have a master's in aerospace engineering for more than 3 years now. I chose to work with my family right after the degree. My great struggle is, how do we bridge going from education into industry, specifically when you have the only relevant experience that you have is the education. Looking at the job posts, you see, oh yeah, 3+ years experience in whatever it is. And then the only experience that you have is the education, and there's no other way to get the experience than to get a job. So like, how do you cross that boundary of experience, education, job?
That's the big question, right? How can we start? Everybody wants to have like the perfectly already educated, with professional experience, international, and with all the different projects, highly ranked, etc. I would always say, what is important? You can always think that, of course, the person who is hiring for that position tries to put everything in. They try to have the best option that they could have. But what I think, what people sometimes, or what candidates sometimes don't do very good, is to get answers on the necessary things. Like if they say you need 3+ years of experience, then write in your CV or in the letter, yeah, okay, I do not have that 3 years, but I did this, that, and this next to my studies. I showed where I could support this and that. So it's always a kind of, how do you especially react to the things that are written there, that what they need in a profile. If you don't have answers for this, or if you just write your CV and the letter always the same way, and you're not taking into account what they really want from you, that's, I think, the worst version. So what I would always do is, why am I anyhow the best version? Or why am I the best candidate for you? Although I don't bring that with me, but I bring this with me, and I have this experience, and I can show you this. So I think it's more the way that the companies always do a lot of marketing. So do also a lot of marketing. Do your own marketing. Show them why you are the best fit for the position, and why you bring an experience that nobody else brings. That's the only thing I can say. And therefore, just ignore if there is 3 years and you say, no, I don't have 3 years. Write anyway, just apply for it and say why you are the right person to do that job. And that happens a lot, especially, for example, at Volkswagen. I know, because you always have to think also at the processes behind, right? So we have at Volkswagen, we have a really bad ATS. The application tracking system is very old. So what you can't do is, you can't do one job post, or you can't do 2 job postings for one job. You have to do 2 different ones. Like you would do like a junior version of the job and a senior version of the job, if you could think of both options. You're not going to do that, because it's such a big hassle behind it. The processes behind are so bad. So the people write just one, and they think if somebody with the junior profile would apply, then we can see him anyhow, or her. So yeah, it's the way sometimes how processes and IT systems are in the back, not really modern and user-friendly, I would say. So
thank you, Andrea. If I may, from my experience and what I have seen with people being successful, it's the more research you can do and the more relationships you can build to the company where you want to work, that is also extremely helpful. I mean, it is true that many jobs are facilitated through your network. So knowing people on LinkedIn and staying in touch about what's going on, being able to ask about a role, right? And what if there is somebody internal, they have access to that intranet, they can find out a little more. Stuff like that is extremely helpful. And, of course, it's the most difficult, as you said, Andrea, in the very beginning, right? Once you have something under your belt, it takes you, it gets easier and easier. And some say at a certain point, you don't get fired, you get promoted somewhere else. So once you're at that stage, you made it, you're lucky, because then the network and your experience transports or generates the drive by itself. We're almost out of time. In fact, there is so little time. I only ask once if there is a last question that someone wants to ask. Maybe on site. I see somebody walking down the stairs. No, somebody walking behind the screen. There is Bethan, and we will hear from somebody on site. Cool. I believe.
All right. My name is Udochimeze Albert. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm happy.
I remember you from last night.
Exactly. And I'm happy to be here. And I did like to thank I thank you for your insight as regards to the future and perspective in which the nature of attribute which recruiters are seeking for in respect to being able to adapt. Okay, I know there is this saying that is usually quoted, which is master of all. I'm sorry, jack of all trade, master of none. So, I mean, it's nice that we people should stay open to be able to get access to opportunities. But then the question now is, I know there are still companies out there who would prefer to have someone who is specialized in a particular skill, or maybe for reasons they're working on the project. We need somebody who can jump in and hit the ground running immediately, because they want to reduce their development time, cost, and access the market as quick as possible. So, what do you advise, or how do you think potential employees should approach this situation? Should they approach it in such a way, okay, I need to find a skill and specialize in that, or I need to, just find a way to stay open to more opportunities?
I think it's a mixture of both. Like it's really depending. If you have a passion for something and you develop like expertise in the field, you could also say like me. I mean, you could not put me in maybe in a real I also did some compensation benefits, but not really a lot. So I would not be an expert in that area, but I'm a real expert in you could say, okay, maybe I did a mistake, because maybe for a higher position, I would need more overview of also other topics. But this is something that I'm so passionate about, and therefore I think I'm really good at it. So I developed more of that expertise. You know what I mean? And then on the other side, I still stay open for example, like really other topics like marketing or communication topics, where I say, okay, this is something that I can also find passion in. So it's more about it's not only what are others looking for, or what are the companies looking for, because I always think when you get best when you're very passionate and about something, and where you can put all your interest in, where you can stay there for hours and find solutions for a problem. This is the way, this is the thing where you should stick to, and then get more, and then see, is there anything else around that where I could also find passion in? So I would not say that it is a one-way street in one way or the other. It's more like, okay, this is the way I really like to go, and this is an area that I really, really like. So I gain expertise there, but I still stay open for new things to come, because sometimes you get such an expert. If you could be an expert for a language that is then like Latin, yeah. It's very nice to be very, very professional in Latin, but you can't speak it anymore. It doesn't make any sense but maybe if you need it for your job, it makes sense, of course. So I think it's really a combination out of different areas that you have to think of. So not just one or the other.
All right, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Andrea. That was really insightful, and I think you have at least the first fan whose Sam is asking when we do the next session like that. So we will hopefully get you back soon for the PCners. Yes, that we have a whole series of sessions around the portfolios on GitHub, on interview training, on how to develop your CV on LinkedIn. We're just getting started as the first cohorts are entering into the internship game and applying for internships, amongst others, with Andrea's team at CARIAD. With that, if you don't have a last word you want to share with us, Andrea, I would say thank you, Dankeschön, for jumping in on such short notice and for a really super insightful exchange.
Thank you for having me. And anytime soon, I always like to talk with you guys to get also more insights on what is important for you, because we always think about what can we do for students, for candidates, how can we stay attractive for all of you. So because they're, as I said, you are highly searched from all the companies out there. So of course we also want to know what makes us attractive to you. So I always like to stay in exchange with you guys. Thank you.
Wonderful. Have a great weekend. Enjoy time with the kids and the family. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.